Hey, it's Drybear. We're in the middle of a open test for a game called Mistfall Hunter. It is available probably for another week or so. I believe next week it will be ending. And the best way I can describe this game, as it is kind of an early testing state, is it seems like a harmony between Elden Ring and Dark and Darker. It very much has the Dark and Darker structure, which means that you are playing a dungeon delving RPG style extraction game. So you're entering into these PvE infested areas that have monsters of all kinds, and you bring gear with you, and that gear makes you stronger. However, if you die in the trial without escaping, you will lose everything that you have on your character. So it, Dungeonborn, Dark and Darker, all of these kind of extraction, old school dungeon style games have been playing around with this formula. And I could say this is definitely one of the best ones that we've seen as far as just like implementation. But there's also just a big question of how far can this style of genre go? Dark and Darker seems to be the only one that has managed to maintain a active player base. They've gone up and down, and they've even recently added in a PvE mode, something that no one thought they would do, and maybe that's just to keep the game fresh and keep people interested. But what's cool about Mistfall Hunter, if you're wanting to try it, you should be able to request access on Steam and gain access to the playtest if you like. Now, the reason I say it's more like Elden Ring is that they do have the class-based system. This is pretty common in these style of games. However, they focus a lot more on the action style combat. So there are charge up attacks, there are dashes, there are very ability focused combinations, there's different things that you can combine together, and you can summon totems and turrets and things like that. So it's a little bit more action, and the pace is a little bit faster than I would say Dark and Darker, at least in my own personal opinion. And it does have the stash, it has an auction house, it has a shop, they have some camp style upgrades if you're looking for more of like the city builder style progression where you go through these steps to make parts of your character stronger, and they do have ways to go into harder modes and more competitive modes as well. Currently there are 5 classes: the Shadowstrix, which is a rogue style character, the Sorcerer, which is a mage caster, the Mercenary, which is your human male warrior. By the way, all of these, if you go to make a new character, there is going to be a female option, but all of them are locked to male, so only wieners right now in Mistfall Hunter. Mercenary has 2 different weapons, the sword and shield with the 2-handed mace. There is a support style character called the Seer, which uses a catalyst, which plays better in group style gameplay, though I have been using it in solo a little bit as well. More holy magic, runes, things like that, and then support style things. But if you're crafty, you can use it in a 1v1 fight quite effectively. And then there's Black Arrow, which is the hunter archer style class that focuses on using a bow. Now, gear-wise, on your paper doll, you have primary weapon and secondary weapons. You can have 2 different weapon sets equipped that you can hot swap to in the middle of combat. You have your basic, boots, legs, bracers, chest, and helm, and then you have 3 accessory slots as well, amulet and 2 rings. And these can actually get quite powerful in what they bring to the table and what you can do with them. Like, so they can increase damage, and they have a bit of a like Monster Hunter / Lost Ark style of developing skills. You can see like this has level 1 of a skill, and you can level that up further and further. They even have like a Monster Hunter style like eating system where you can actually eat and collect buffs and make your character stronger. So if you like, the Monster Hunter canteen is here as well. Before you go into battle, it lasts a single battle, and you can choose what buffs go along with it, just to kind of make the own build fall into line there. They do have an auction house. You can buy from other players, you can sell from other players as well. You can see that like it is relatively new, so there's not like a crazy amount of like purple stuff on here. There are some here if you wanted to play around, but you can see how big of a difference the purple is from the normal, right? Like the amount of damage that you can get increased on this, magic damage, physical damage. They also come with perks as well, Monster Hunter style, so if you wanted to level up a specific perk for your build, you can. Then they have the skills set up, so you have 2, usually both, all characters will have 2 different areas they can invest into. For the weapon-based characters, it's 2 different weapons that they invest into. For the casters, like the Seer and the Sorcerer, you can end up choosing different kinds of magic. So you can actually only have 3 slots or 2 slots depending on the character up here. Then you can pick and choose which spells or abilities you want to bring with you, and then you can specialize from there. So you actually have a full talent tree, which is pretty cool. So you go to the talent tree, and this will have 2 or 3 pages depending on the character. Some generic ones, things like, you know, getting better energy recovery, and then you can also specialize into elements for the casters or for the seer. So you can do rune magic or divine arts for the seer, or you can do element like ice, fire, lightning, or they have an element called stardust for the sorcerer, which is more on like, you know, crazy different kinds of combinations of elements, which is pretty cool. There's even supreme arcane and things like that. And each one of these is a pretty extensive talent. You can lock these in as you level the character up and eventually get, I think, most of them, if not all of them. And you can change around how they play, and this is the same for all the classes. Now, what's interesting about this is it does kind of feel faster and more ability focused than, say, like Dark and Darker. Not to say that you wouldn't do like Dark and Darker Dungeonborn ability, but it does feel like it's a little bit more action oriented and less like trading individual blows, but it is still going to feel like the Dark and Darker style gameplay that you have. What you do have here for all classes is the HP bar for the amount of health, and then the yellow bar underneath is your energy bar. And this is for using powerful attacks, even medium strength attacks, as well as dodging and things like that. Every class should have an ability that allows them to do minor damage without consuming energy, but most of them, if they want to do a really good attack, they have to consume energy to do it, including dodging as well. However, when you run out of energy, you will end up hitting a fatigue state, which basically means that when the energy hits 0, and by combining this all together, you can punish enemies. Now, when you're in the fatigue state, you move slower, you can't use anything that requires energy, but you can still attack, and so managing the stamina is very important, and this also prevents people from turtling as well. You know, if Seer gets super high shields and healing, or if the mercenary, the melee character, ends up getting like big shield and stands behind it, eventually if you attack them, they'll run out of the energy, and then you can super punish them when they go into this fatigue state and combo. And also, this combines into 2 different queues, which is a solo queue, 1v1s free-for-all overall, and then the 3-man team, so 3v3v3v3, as you're going through the process and collecting loot. But since it is a gear-based game, there will be scaling power based on how much gear you have, and there are normal enemies, elite enemies, champion enemies, and full-on bosses with their whole move set as well. And it's something that I think is a big part of playing in games like this. But because it's third person, a little more actiony, I think it plays a little bit more like a you know, a Souls-like style adventure rather than the slow, methodical, like room-to-room clearing that you get from, you know, similar games in this genre. On top of that, because of the energy system, you really don't want to run out of energy at the wrong time, so you're managing your energy just like you would a stamina system as you go through. And what's cool about this as well, it's something that I think a lot of these games have put some time into experimenting with, is when you go into a full-on boss room, you actually get a fog gate like you would in a Souls game, where you go into the boss room, it closes off, no one can enter and no one can leave, and you're just fighting the boss until you die, until it dies, or until the gas takes you. Now, there's try to like as many maps as I can. It's all random. On the mini map, you'll see that the boss rooms have this like red area on it, and when you enter, they are very cinematic in the way they're presented, and they have a super boss meter as well. But you'll notice that as I enter this boss room, which is like the super boss setup, the door opens, I go inside, and then I try to deal some damage. But you can see that like I have very minor gear. This is probably like 3 extractions in on the lowest. I just made this character, and so I'm not very strong, I'm not very geared, I'm not very powerful. I can't take this boss by myself solo, but I just wanted to try it. So we throw some damage, and you can see that the damage on this boss does basically nothing. So you can see that you really do need some good gear to play around, but I think it is kind of worthwhile to show because you actually get to see some of the animations. Like, they actually have full abilities. He's throwing boulders. They've got like blinks and jumps and slams and dash attacks, and they also turn red for like unblockables and things like that. So they really did try to combine the Souls-like experience with the RPG old school dungeon delving extraction experience that we have now. And I think you know, again, this is a great opportunity. These specific genre of games tend to be kind of hit or miss, or they start out really hype and then they kind of fall down, or maybe they start low and work their way up. But if you are interested at all, you can play for the next week or so. Sign up on the playtest for Steam and check it out if you're interested in trying the game, because I am enjoying it. It does seem like a lot of people are enjoying it as well, and just like its predecessors, it shows a lot of promise and is super cool to watch. Now, as it stands right now, it does have the mechanic from Battle Royales, which this genre started with, where like it has concentric circles that spawn, the gas closes in and forces you to move, and it's the forcing function that prevents people from just sitting in the corner of the map the entire time. The world is becoming more and more dangerous. And this is something that Dark and Darker had done away with and Dungeonborn had played around with. Some people like it, some people don't, especially since like the circles can be kind of unfair in the way they close depending on the layout of the map. If you're stuck behind a door, or you're stuck behind a different area, or you have a boss in front of you, that sort of thing. But it is something that I think works here just because you have so many ways to maneuver and get around. They have portals that go from one room to a far away room, so you can get around that way, and the escape is pretty straightforward. So whether you want to take on a boss all alone, or you want to start a party for dungeon delving, I'm very curious if this ends up having a PvE mode like Dark and Darker finally added, as a lot of people were asking for that. But the challenge with that is it does split the queues up, which means less people are playing the PvP if they're playing the PvE, and that's probably why that most of the games that have been asked for PvE just haven't been adding it, just because they're worried that they'll fragment the player base too much. Escaping the trial with your gear is pretty straightforward. At a certain point, these little bell monsters will appear, maybe like one or two of them across the map. You have to find them and kill them, and they do fight back. They do AoE attacks and they can knock you down, which is kind of rough, and you just have to kill them and loot them. They will have a Soul of Return on it. You collect this, put it in your inventory, and then you activate it, and it will create an exit portal, which you can then take and go back to the main menu with the gear that you've looted. But obviously, it's going to make a lot of noise. The bell bearers are marked on the map and through walls, so other players can see them. So everything kind of like encourages PvP from that standpoint, and also depends on where you are in the room and how many enemies you have aggroed as well. So whether you're interested in a new kind of game, or you just generally like these kinds of games in general, check out Mistfall Hunter on Steam right now. Their playtest again is about a week long, for a week longer. I think it's like two weeks total, and they just started. So you have like a week left to be able to play it. But if you have any experiences with Mistfall Hunter, let me know in the comments down below. Curious if anyone has even tried this yet. If you found value in today's video, leave a like down below, leave a comment for the algorithm to help this video get seen by more people, and don't forget to check out my other channels for other content and other stuff and other things.